please do yourself a favor and watch Anne-Marie Turza read 5 poems from Fugue with Bedbug at the Forest to Poet Tree Walk on YouTube, and I've provided a link in the description below. The video is high quality, 1080p, immersing you in the smallest of details of the Mary Lake Nature Sanctuary. You see everything from the slow crawl of a slug on the forest floor to the subtle expressions that steal over the poets' faces. And I'll bet you've never seen this kind of camera work to record a poetry reading. A slow pan over the attentive audience members. The shift of focus from background to foreground, a loving close-up of the tattoo on a poet's hand. Honestly, I've never felt so present at a reading I never attended. Mostly I love how this video lulls you into a false sense of security with its lush visuals and calming music, and when Turza begins reading from her new collection, you realize we're not in Kansas anymore. While Turza's first collection, The Quiet, gently prods the reader towards her strange vision of the world, Fugue with Bedbug puts you smack dab in the middle of it with as much subtlety as a hammer to a snail. I can't help but feel for these West Coast nature lovers who are suddenly confronted with Turza's lines, "Our hooves were ultra-modern lanterns for polyphonic homilies."
Our hooves were ultra-modern lanterns for polyphonic homilies.
I mean, holy mother of mollusks, this is not the sequel to The Quiet that I expected. Just look at the difference between the opening sentence of Quill Inquirer's review of each book. The Quiet hits like a shock of black river water. Fugue with Bedbug is a straight-up weird book. So, what's at the heart of the difference between these two collections? Well, in my mind, the poems in The Quiet are held together by their joint exploration to answer the question, what is the quiet? On The Thin-Legged Wolf Spider, for example, Turza writes, "Its quiet isn't known to anyone but the spider." In another poem about baseball, Turza writes, "The quiet is not unlike the pitches thrown by Satchel Paige in the late 1920s for the Birmingham Black Barons." Throughout The Quiet, the reader is trying to grasp the quiet, and it seems every poem gives another clue. In the end, the mystery of the quiet is only understood as a particular feeling, something precise, restrained, hidden, and haunting. What holds Fugue with Bedbug together? Well, perhaps our answer is in the title. Fugue with Bedbug. Let's define a fugue, for the uncultured swine among you. It's basically a piece of music where a melody repeats itself across different parts. Turza actually includes an example in the last several pages of her collection, a coro fugato written by Berlin-based composer D.R. Bennett. See how the soprano and tenor introduce a melody, which is then taken up by the alto and bass? One of the first things I noticed upon reading this collection was the repeated diction. In Our Purpose, husband, red, and aprons appear several times in different forms. In the 1st and 9th lines, husband is a verb, while its other appearances are as nouns. Red is a color, then something more abstract, a myth, and finally, a bird. And the aprons are always just aprons, only cloth. Another poem, The Wedding Party, includes 3 repeated phrases, with some variation. I assumed this repetition was the fugue-like element of the poetry. I thought to myself, maybe this is the glue that holds the collection together. But as I kept reading, I realized that, although repetition does hold certain poems together, it's not a mainstay of the collection. Rather, it's another tool in Turza's toolbox. So what about the bedbug in the title? Could that be a hint as to what holds this collection together? On the surface, only one poem, The Exit, centers around this blood-sucking parasite. The bedbug is referred to as an exit, The exit was one idea, and I another. An exit found me. An exit I was food for. An exit traveled to my bed and ate of me. This is done, I think, to bring out the bedbug's elusive omnipresence and the narrator's role as an entrance. Funnily enough, the word bedbug never appears in the collection. So, what to make of this title? How does it relate to the poems? And ultimately, is there something, a theme or a feeling, that holds this collection together as in The Quiet? Let's look at more poems from Fugue with Bedbug and return to these questions later. After all, I find questions surrounding the conceptual unity of a collection second to the pull of the poetry itself. If you disagree, we can fight about it. In the first 3 stanzas of Fortunately, There Were Planets, mysteries abound, layers of unexpected associations. What does it mean to live in handsome parallel to ourselves? And what is the connection to a boiled egg? Another twist, the noun turned verb tooth. In the second stanza, the humdrum phrase, our bodies were thoughts, is energized with the confidence of the word exactly. In the following line, the noun turned adjective torrent packs the grass with action. The simile with plastic wrap grounds us for the familiarity of the image. But the next simile sets us loose into the wild again. Aromatic as ellipses? Perfumed as points? Fragrant as a mission? Pungent as a puzzle? In Slip Minute, which is a long poem in the middle of the collection, a description of a housefly stood out to me. A housefly, as it happens, has a timely inside, a body always well tuned to the moment, with quick, informing corners, precise, agile movement that must seem, to the fly, to be outside its body in the slow and geriatric world. The tired, unbearably slow surroundings from the perspective of such an agile traveler. What excites me most about this poetry is the tonal variety, the range in subject matter and attitude. Nothing is off limits, anything can serve as inspiration. Turza invents the name of a strange place, the Kraknaral, which sounds like where you'll go if you dare to enter here. Describing the time, she writes X o'clock, which immediately reminded me of John Ashbery's The Skaters. I had thought of announcing my engagement to you on the day of the first full moon of X month. Turza uses unusual language like elsewhen, which is, I learned, not her invention, but an else compound from the 15th century that fell out of use, like elsehow, elsewords, and elsewhat. One of her poems begins with playful repetition, rumble rumble, what the what, followed by a pun. The lobe of this one's ear is the most yeared obvious. Turza dares to use conversational slang like Google as a verb, and she even mentions Donkey Kong, a beloved video game franchise, but as an adjective to describe her own made-up breakfast cereal. Actually, I just Googled it, and it's not made up. I'm just embarrassingly out of the loop. I hope these examples illustrate the unpredictable and relentlessly inventive style of the poetry in Fugue, which I think imbues the collection with a special magic. Enchanted by Fugue, briefly obsessed, surfing the web for Turza-related content, I stumbled upon Glass Bookshop Radio, a podcast of Edmonton's Glass Bookshop. Anne-Marie Turza is interviewed by Jason Purcell, who teases out some useful tidbits of knowledge about the inspiration behind the title, Fugue with Bedbug. There's a link to that interview in the description below. Thanks to this interview, I was able to solve the mystery, I think, of what holds these poems together. Fugue with Bedbug. I learned that a fugue isn't just about repetition. The word comes from the Latin fuga, which means flight. And Turza explains that she was inspired by the idea of the fugue not so much as a strict form, but rather a compositional technique, the emphasis on horizontal and vertical movement, and a multiplicity of melodies. As for bedbugs, well, after a particularly unpleasant experience with them, an allergic reaction and self-isolation to prevent further spread, Turza, inspired by the idea that something was happening on a scale too small for her to see, came to a kind of spiritual awareness. She says,
to think about our relationship to the world and to other creatures in it, and to think about it in terms of just questioning the whole environment and how we interact with what is around us, and what is invisible to us, and what is pressing itself against us to make itself known.
Given all this information, I think I can explain the title in a way that makes sense to me and aligns with my reading experience. Fugue with Bedbug. A flight of many melodies, a multiplicity of selves, describing what's invisible to us and wishes to make itself known. Don't forget, this is all just one person's opinion on Turza's Fugue with Bedbug. I hope you enjoyed my take, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Okay, bye.